Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. Now, it's Trump versus Canada yet again, and this time it's not any punitive tariff that we're talking about, but a bridge that has become the bone of contention. Trump, in a post on Truth Social, threatened to stop the opening of a new $4.7 billion bridge connecting the Canadian province of Ontario to the U.S. state of Michigan unless Washington was fully compensated for everything. Here's a report by Mahashweta Lala.
Trump's attacks on Canada and its leader Mark Carney are far from over. After Carney's speech at Davos and a phone call with the President Donald Trump, where the Canadian Prime Minister said he meant what he said at the World Economic Forum, a new threat now confronts Ottawa. Trump, in a post on Truth Social, threatened to stop the opening of a new $4.7 billion bridge connecting the Canadian province of Ontario to the U.S. state of Michigan unless Washington was fully compensated for everything that U.S. gave to Canada. The opening of Gordie Howe International Bridge is now under threat. The construction of the bridge, which began in 2018, is being funded by the Canadian government but will be publicly owned by both Canada and Michigan. The organization developing the bridge, Windsor Detroit Bridge Authority, is wholly owned by the Canadian government. The Maroon family, American owners of the another bridge called the Ambassador Bridge, had urged Trump during his first term that the then under construction Gordie Howe International Bridge challenged their exclusive ability to collect tolls. The Ambassador Bridge connects Detroit to Canada. But the bridge is not the sole contentious issue. Recent visit of Prime Minister Mark Carney to China has also not gone down well with Washington. Carney is head-on confronting remarks and rubbishing Trump's claims that Canada lives because of the United States. This has further irked the US president. Many see Mark Carney as one of the leaders in the West standing up to the bullies of the US president. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, days after talks between Iran and the U.S. in Oman, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says Iran has the right to enrich and no one can dictate Iran as to what they have to do and what they cannot.
Days after Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Muscat, advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei, Ali Larijani, landed in Oman. Though Araghchi, post the meeting in Muscat, called it a good start, fear of a war looms large. Iran has maintained that it has the right to enrich, and no one can force or tell the Islamic country what to have or not have.
Why have we insisted on enrichment so much, and are we not willing to give it up, even if the war is imposed on us? Because no one has the right to tell us what we should and shouldn't have. This is based on the principle of negation of domination. I have the right to enrich. According to the law, it is up to me whether I exercise this right or not. The fact that it was said over the years that you don't have the right to enrich, zero enrichment, why? Because we are concerned. Well, if you are worried, we are prepared to address concerns. If there are questions, we will answer. If there is no trust, we create trust. But no one has the right to tell us that you shouldn't have it because I want it so.
ما آمادیم نگرانی ها رو رفع میکنیم. سوال هست جواب میدیم. اعتماد وجود نداره، اعتماد ایجاد میکنیم.
Earlier, President Donald Trump had threatened that a beautiful armada was on its way to Iran. Araghchi says U.S. military deployment doesn't scare Iran.
من اعتقاد دارم رمز قدرت جمهوری اسلامی ایران
The military development in the region does not scare us. We are people of diplomacy, but we are also people of war. We are not looking of war, but we are ready to fight it if we are challenged. We are diplomatic because we have logic on our side, because we choose words. We are logical.
قدرت نگفتن هست به قدرت‌های بزرگ.
Iran refuses to bow down to the US hegemony and insists that their atomic bomb is the power to say no to the great powers. Countering Trump's threats, the Iranian foreign minister said they will target US bases in the Gulf if America launches an attack.
به نظر من این خیلی روشنه.
In my view, this is very clear. If the US attacks us, it is evident that we don't have the ability and access to attack US territory, and therefore have to attack or retaliate to US bases in the region, and unfortunately US bases are spread all over the region.
و متاسفانه پایگاه‌های آمریکا در سراسر منطقه.
Israel's President Benjamin Netanyahu, who is scheduled to visit the White House on Wednesday, told reporters that he would share Israel's views about the negotiations with Iran.
On this trip, we will discuss a number of issues, Gaza, the region, but of course, first and foremost, the negotiations with Iran. I will present to the President our ideas about the principles in the negotiations, the important principles, and in my opinion, they are important not only for Israel, but for everyone in the world who wants peace and security in the Middle East.
Washington has been demanding that Iran should give up its persuasion of nuclear program, but Tehran says its nuclear program is meant for civilian purpose and for the interests of the Iranians. Trump's constant threats of beautiful armada being sent towards Iran and dispatch of USS Abraham Lincoln has intensified tensions between the US and Iran, with major global players urging for peace and dialogue. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, after the United States imposed a blockade on oil to Cuba, resulting in severe energy crisis and forcing Cuba to warn international airlines that jet fuel will no longer be available on the island beginning today. A notice to the aviation, that's NOTAM, said the shortage is set to last from February 10th through or until March 11th. Cuba has relied on Venezuela for its jet fuel, but it has not received any crude or refined products since mid-December, when the U.S. moved to block the South American nation's exports. Since the toppling of Maduro government and his capture by the United States of America, President Donald Trump shifted focus on Cuba and said the Caribbean nation will not receive any oil from Venezuela. He's also threatened to slap tariffs on any nation sending fuel to Cuba. Mexico has also announced that it was suspending its shipments after Trump's threat to impose tariffs. Meanwhile, Cubans lined up outside the Nicaraguan embassy in Havana seeking visas after Managua suddenly ended visa-free travel for Cuban citizens, leaving many with purchased tickets uncertain about their ability to leave the island. The measure eliminates the visa waiver that had been in place since 2021 to promote tourism and humanitarian family relations between the two countries. However, China said it opposes any foreign interference in the internal affairs of another country.
据了解，目前没有接到中国公民滞留的报告。
I would like to reiterate that China firmly supports Cuba in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security, opposes foreign interference, and resolutely opposes any actions or inhumane acts that deprive the Cuban people of their rights to survival and development. China will, as always, provide Cuba with support and assistance to the best of its ability.
将一如既往向古方提供力所能及的支持和帮助。
In its pursuit of ghost tankers, the United States captured yet another tanker carrying 700,000 barrels of crude to China. According to the Department of War, the Aquila II was operating in defiance of President Trump's established quarantine of sanctioned vessels in the Caribbean. Pete Hegseth boasted that Aquila II ran and we followed, and warned defiant ships they would run out of fuel. In a separate case, the Indian Coast Guard said they had busted an international oil smuggling racket in a coordinated sea-air operation. The syndicate moved cheap oil from conflict-ridden regions to motor tankers, evading duties owed to coastal states. The Indian Coast Guard intercepted 3 suspect vessels. The Epstein files has left the world in shock and have threatened to topple governments and strip royalties of titles. Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer questions at a deposition before the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Maxwell, who was found guilty in 2021 for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, invoked her Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and declined to answer questions. Democrats on the committee accused Maxwell of using the deposition to campaign for clemency from U.S. President Donald Trump and called on the Republican president to rule out such a move. David Marcus, a lawyer for Maxwell, said he advised her to invoke the Fifth Amendment as she has a pending habeas petition that demonstrates that her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial.
Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide a complete account, and some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
And now from politics and Epstein files to some space news. Elon Musk's SpaceX is looking towards building a self-growing city on Moon. This, it says, is a faster and more practical path for humanity's long-term future beyond Earth. According to Musk, lunar missions can be launched every 10 days with a travel time of roughly 2 days, contrary to Mars, which can be possible when planetary alignment occurs every 26 months, with each journey taking about 6 months. Musk explained that the Moon offers a much quicker development cycle compared to Mars. While the Moon now takes priority, Musk made it clear that Mars remains central to SpaceX's broader mission. The company plans to begin efforts toward building a Mars city within the next 5 to 7 years, when perhaps Moon City is within SpaceX's control. That's all on this show. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and take care.